In this lesson, I'll teach you the basics of one-point perspective using a box. This will let you get your feet wet at drawing this type of perspective, let you practice the techniques, and we'll build from there. Before doing this drawing, you might want to spend 5 minutes warming up with some of the straight line exercises shown in a previous video. The most important line in one-point perspective is the horizon line. We will place ours just above the center of the page. In the middle of the horizon line, we'll put a dot. This dot will be our vanishing point. Like a set of railroad tracks, all parallel lines will come together and meet at this vanishing point off in the distance. To draw a box, I'll first draw the front face of the box by drawing a rectangle. This is the part of the box that is facing us. To draw the side and top of the box, I'll draw a straight line from each of the corners of the box to the vanishing point. This method of drawing is called drawing through, and it will look like the box is transparent. The reason that we draw through is that it conveys a better overall sense of the volume of the object. We can always erase lines later to make the object look more solid. When drawing straight lines, use your whole arm and draw from the shoulder. Rehearse the stroke a few times before laying down the line. Rotate your paper if you need to. Draw very lightly at first. When you get all of your guidelines in, then you can darken in your lines. The next step is to decide how deep the box goes. I'll just arbitrarily decide that it goes back about this far, so I'll draw a vertical line starting from my bottom guideline called an orthogonal up until it intersects my middle guideline or orthogonal. This gives me the side plane of my box and shows me where the back edge is. Next, I'll draw a horizontal from the back edge over until it intersects the other orthogonal. This will give me the top plane of my box. I can now darken in some of my lines. I'll draw some more boxes to the right of the vanishing point and with the vanishing point in the center of the box. The lines going back to the vanishing point gives us the first of the 5 ways we can create the illusion of depth. Convergence. Line quality refers to the thickness or thinness of a line, or a line that goes from thick to thin. You can say a lot about the forms you're drawing just with line quality. Look what happens if I darken and create a thicker line on the bottom edge of my box. On the sides, I can transition from thick at the bottom to thin at the top. This not only creates interest in the drawing by having lines of varying thicknesses, it also suggests form and light by having heavy lines at the bottom and light lines at the top. Now I'll duplicate the 3 boxes and draw them above the horizon line. We'll see the bottom of the box and they'll look like they're floating. Next, we'll use the principle of diminution. We'll draw smaller boxes closer to the vanishing point, and that will help sell the illusion of depth. Next, we'll utilize the principle of overlapping to further sell the illusion of depth. I'll draw some boxes that look like they're right behind other boxes. Now we have a good illusion of depth by using all of our principles. To make things look solid, we have to add shading. The first step in shading is to establish a light source. All of the planes facing the light source will be lightest, and the planes facing away from the light source will be darkest. Some people can easily and cleanly shade inside the lines. I tend to be a little on the messy side, so I overshoot the lines, sometimes on purpose. And then I come back with an eraser to clean up the edge. The choice of how you want to do it is yours. Next, I'll add some cast shadows. I'll draw in guidelines from the corners of the boxes coming forward. They'll be at the same angle as my light source. The fronts of the shadows will be horizontal, and the sides of the shadows will go back to the vanishing point. The shadows will be darkest next to the box and get lighter as they move away from the box. I'll darken the ground plane using atmospheric perspective. One of the rules of atmospheric perspective says that things tend to get lighter and have less contrast as they go back in the distance. Just think about looking at something underwater. The closer it is to you, the darker it will be, with more contrast. As it moves away, there will be more water between you and the object, so the water starts to obscure the object. It's the same with atmosphere, only the distances involved are greater because the atmosphere is so much thinner than water is. Next, I'll put in reflected light by making a gradation on the front planes and side planes of the boxes, dark on top and lighter as it goes toward the ground to show the light bouncing up from the ground. Lastly, I'll go over any lines I want to strengthen and add a cast shadow for the 3 floating boxes. Knowing how to draw and shade these boxes will allow you to draw from your imagination all kinds of box-like forms. You should practice this drawing until you can draw it from memory. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks for watching.